Hey, Impact Zone fam, how we going? For today, we are back here again, talking more TNA wrestling shenanigans, of course, as we always do. And well, today I want to talk about wrestling gaslighting. Now this has come out of a lot of stuff, mostly to do with WWE of late, realistically, where especially like Triple H and perhaps like there is some like network stuff or some what is it TKO stuff where it's sort of like blocking him from doing stuff, but I think he well and truly knows that, hey, they're not going to go for this or they're not going to go for that and things like that. Because surely by now, after having spent, what is it, the last like 3-4 years specifically in charge, and I mean, even before that, for the last like couple of years, even the last 5 years or so, since that deal has sort of been in the works and they've been like working together and things like that, there has been a lot of, I don't want to just say promises made on that side, and this certainly applies to TNA and things like that as well, and especially the TNA partnership, but still, like, this applies within TNA and the bookering and whatnot itself. So I do feel like there's an awful lot of gaslighting in wrestling sometimes, where sometimes I think, like, especially when wrestlers are fans of some of the wrestlers that they're working with, they can very easily get caught into this, like, I don't know, like, just like believing whatever the wrestlers they used to idolize have to say for themselves. And yeah, certainly, like, I would take anything anyone's, like, I hate to say that, but taking everything everyone says with a grain of salt, but it is true. It is one of those things where you've got to take a lot of things that people say with a grain of salt, because you don't know whether somebody's trying to gaslight you or not, sort of thing. You never know what the situation is until you've actually got, it's in front of you and it's actually being like happening on TV, or it's actually something in your contract where you're getting more money, or you're getting something, or you're actually getting a story, or you're actually advancing up the card and things like this. So, or getting those wins and losses and getting those moments and getting that time to sort of go out there and actually do those things. And I don't want to accuse anyone of doing this or whatever. And it is tough because, again, it is one of those situations, and I talk about this so much, where it's like the current crop of talent are in the positions they're in because, well, they are over, and TNA management or TNA booking hasn't come along to book anyone strong enough to be in those positions to replace a lot of those people in those positions. But again, perhaps that's also down to some of the talent not being quite ready for those positions or what have you. But the thing of that is, it's not to say, hey, we should promise, well, not just promise them, but we should say, hey, well, we'll be working on that. But you're not really, and you don't you only really care enough. I think sometimes they only really care enough to make it like, well, we're making a feigned effort, and it's not our fault that the talent aren't getting over. You know what I mean? It's the talent's fault. It's always somebody else's fault for the bad ratings or the bad creative or whatever else it is. The talent try to do their best with the creative that they're given, and even sometimes they're the ones coming up with some creative to actually push things forward and to get things down the line and whatnot. I think I was listening to Mustafa Ali's one of his interviews, or reading one of his interviews there, where he was saying about the international title before he won it. And yeah, before he won it, it was sort of just kind of there. And I didn't think that they'd done enough with it to really make it like seriously a big thing. Like when it debuted, they did some stuff with it, but they never really put it in a position to be that important, and they never really tried hard enough to make it matter enough or to do anything really with it. They had a couple of opportunities, but they never really pulled the trigger on doing anything with it and make it, or really the people that were holding it and that sort of thing, and really giving good stories and good moments and matches and things and all of that sort of stuff to the people that were in it. And I mean, realistically, Mustafa Ali's title run wasn't that much better. Like, honestly, like he had a couple more defenses against a couple more people here and there, and it was somewhat more prominent than it had been for a little bit. But realistically, like, they didn't really do very much more with it. And like now Hotch has got it, and like, that's cool, that's great, nice to see, young talent, as of now at least, getting those opportunities to actually like do something, move up the card, start working and telling that story, and seeing like where can Hotch go next. Can Hotch become, well, I don't think he can become world champion next year, but like, will he get into that more main event or semi-main event picture? That's interesting to think about and interesting to see, or even to see, will his international title reign be very good after he's finished with Ali? Because it becomes the very next question of, well, what do you do after this? Because you've got to follow something up with something else. You know what I mean? You can't just be like, oh, well, he beat Ali. Oh, well, back to barely being existing and barely mattering. And that will hurt the title and hurt, Hotch. So, like, and sometimes I don't know whether the company and the divisions that they've got have got enough people and enough things to work with to make it work. I don't know. That's yet to be seen in many ways, but we will wait and see if they, like, because they do have a lot of talent, but it is just like, well, some of those talent really need to be pushed more into that main event or semi-main event scene, and really need to be seen as, no, these are like, if we have a heel champion, we need all the guys that, or we need to convert as many guys to being babyface as what we can, that we can do with and work with for a while, or we need to change some guys up that are, getting a bit stale or whatever else it is, or whatnot, or as baby faces or as heels or whatever, and see how they go on the other side of the fence, so to speak. But yeah, like, the gaslighting is absolutely terrible. I mean, maybe it's worse in WWE and whatnot and things like that, but I do think it was probably worse before, where I do feel like there was a lot more, oh yeah, we're working on that. Not maybe Carlos Silver and a couple of the other people that are there. I think some of the people that are working there are very much like, no, we are actually trying to get somewhere, and we actually are trying to make things work, and we actually do care, and we actually realize, hey, yeah, we need to get this ball rolling, and sometimes, like, that takes time. You cannot expect people to be a main eventer overnight. Like, there are some people that can be main eventers overnight, basically, more or less, whatever you want to call it. But for the most part, no. Most guys, most gals, most people cannot be a main eventer overnight. That does not work. That does not happen. That does not, usually happen. It really does not usually happen. It is one of those things that has to be worked on for weeks, months, even years at times. There are people that are already in those sorts of positions, but for the most part, a lot of those people have been in those positions, especially in TNA and especially in WWE and a lot of places, actually, to be honest, for a long period of time. You can look at AEW, same thing. Like MJF and Kenny Omega have been in that same position for the last, 5-6 years. You know what I mean? So it's like, well, not to say that they don't deserve to be in those positions, but to say, well, it is time to start saying, okay, well, how do we add to those ranks, not just say, oh, well, Kenny and MJF and like a handful of other people or Moose or whoever it is you want to talk about in whatever company you want to talk about. These are our current crop of talent. Yeah, cool, great. But, right, how do we move the next talent up? And I would say, like, realistically, if you looked at things, like Mike Santana was in that position for quite a while, so was Joe Hendry for quite a while before they became the champ and whatnot. So people saying they weren't main eventers or they weren't whatever are, I don't know what they're smoking, but again, like they were main eventers for a long period of time before that. Before they became world champion. So, and you, like, that's the thing. You can see when somebody has a story, even if it's a very simple story, as long as it's told well and told consistently, and that person is getting big wins along the way to achieving the goal, so to speak, you can tell that that person is going to that place. They're not just, oh, well, I had a match this month or whatever it was, and we started telling a story this month. So, and there happens to be a pay-per-view at the end of the month. Oh, wow, I wonder what's going to happen then. Instead of it being like, oh, you're just going to face the champion at the end of the month. Oh, okay, well, obviously you're not winning then because your story has been literally built up for the last, month. If you start building up a story and start saying, okay, we're going to keep you away from the champion for 3 months, 6 months, whatever the heck it's going to be, and you're going to keep winning and you're going to keep moving on with your story, and then, okay, we're going to get to putting you in a number one contendership position for that title. Whether you win it or not is another thing down the road or whatever, but at least even if you lose, hey, well, we're going to see how you perform in that role or whatever. But there is a lot of gaslighting where it's like, I don't want to say management, but like the management and whatnot sort of, or the bookers and whatnot will tell the talent, oh, you're great, you're amazing, yeah, you're right there, it's all cool, yeah, we definitely believe in you, and we're right behind you, and all of this, and whatnot, but, like, realistically, you're in this position right now, so right now, we've got to deal with you in the position that you're in. You're not ready for the next position. Sometimes, again, you've got to give things to people before they're ready, and just roll the dice and hope that they turn out, kind of thing. Or you've got to give those moments to plant a seed, like with Casey Navarro or whoever else it is, to say, okay, we might come back to this person in 6 months or in a year or whatever else it is. But in the meantime, what can we do with them? Well, we have this other thing going on, so we might as well put them in that thing or whatever, or we might as well put them in this thing. And then, okay, well, what are we going to do after that? Okay, well, now we've got to have 6 months worth of stuff for Casey Navarro or for whoever, whatever you want to say, to build up to get, well, even if you're going to say, like I said before, is he going to go to Bound for Glory, going to win the call your shot and then going to call his shot? Like, I was thinking that you could do that. Like, that's very mirror imaged of Nick Nemeth and whatnot. So you get that kind of increased story connection that you've already got, that you've already established and things like that. And there's a lot to play with there if you do it. Like I said before, if you give the call your shot to KC can come out on the next episode of TNA and sort of say, I just won this, and well, I know everyone's going to want to know what title I'm going to, call my shot on, and then Nick Nemeth comes out to interrupt him, and he's, going to say, well, obviously you're going to choose me, kid, and all of that sort of thing, because I'm the world champ and I beat you before and all of that, so now you think you've got a better chance of beating me and all of that sort of stuff. Just know that you'll never beat me, or what, that sort of thing, So that's a really good story and a really good, like, use of the call your shot. If you have Casey standing there and for weeks or whatever, saying, sort of, not doubting himself, but sort of going, well, you know what? I did say whatever months ago that I wouldn't bother you again, but now I have this opportunity not handed to me. I've earned this opportunity through call your shot. So you know what? I have to eventually call my shot, and that is the most important prize in this company, and I still want to and need to beat you. So, but am I ready for that? I need to go and find out. I need to work and prove that I can beat you. I need to beat whoever I can beat for a few more weeks to make sure that I'm ready, because, like last time I didn't call up trumps or whatever, I didn't get the job done, so to speak, or whatever, like, that's a way to build somebody. Start saying, okay, we'll give you this opportunity. And even, again, if he doesn't achieve it, which I don't think you would at that point, you would say, okay, well, let's run the ball with you. I don't know. But again, I do feel like the call your shot thing, that sort of thing, or if you do the, feast or fired or whatever else it is, again, at some point, those sorts of things are things that, I say this before, it really works better with heels, but you can still really tell a really good story for a babyface, and especially someone like KC Navarro. So you're always going to have those things where it's like, well, he still feels like he needs to prove himself or whatever else it is. He lost last time. He doesn't want it to be the same thing this time, that sort of thing, even though he's got the call your shot. So you've got to if you're going to give somebody a call your shot opportunity like that, you've got to have those prerequisites. You've got to have the pre-story for whatever else it is that, you've already sort of done the legwork with, and then say, okay, well, let's give you this, and then let's, like, try to elevate you into the next position of, even if you're not going to be the champion, like, again, try to elevate you again into that position. You cannot gaslight people into, trying to elevate people. You can try to gaslight people, but at the end of the day, especially, like, again, TNA, I don't want to say isn't a destination, because there's always been people coming to TNA, but it's not been a major destination for a long time. Like, there's been a few guys that have come in that have really made a difference, and there's been a few guys that have sort of popped in and then disappeared again, like Uha Nation. He popped in and we haven't seen him since. So I don't really know what you're going to do with some of that. Like, it is nice to see some of these things. And again, like, are we going to see some more of these ex-WWE stars? Maybe. But again, like, to an extent, like, who cares? To an extent. Like, I don't want to just say I don't care, but I don't care that much, because I am much more invested in the young crop of talent that are building up underneath. And it's always those young crop of talent that get gaslit more. It's never really the older, more established talent, because, again, even if you start gaslighting some of them, it doesn't really matter, because, like, again, for the most part, they have done practically everything that they can do in their careers. So again, it doesn't matter that, again, if you gaslight them and you don't fulfill, I don't want to just say promises, but again, like, fulfill the idea of what the fans want to see them do, which is be a major star, win championships, have major stories, do major things, and all of that sort of stuff. People don't want to just see somebody come in and then just sort of like exist. They have to be having a story. They have to be doing things. They have to be having moments. They have to actually be a presence that is affecting the division. And if, they actually have to have a goal in mind and a reason for that goal and all of these sorts of different things that are going on. You've got to have all of these things converging that work. And like, again, like, I was considering like the upcoming match for the Knockouts TV title tournament, and I was thinking, okay, well, who are they going to get to do that? And I was like, well, really, I think like they'll get Jada to do it, just as my opinion, because again, Jada, well, maybe, I don't know, but they kind of did this thing this week, and they've kind of done it last week and the last couple of weeks, actually, with Jada and Harley Hudson, where it seems like they're almost maybe gonna be a tag team, maybe-ish, who knows, I don't know, but, like, maybe, but, like, she does seem like you're looking at more, right now at least, more of a singles star, and she does feel like that vibe at least, and maybe, like, again, getting that that vibe of saying, well, I like Em and Heather by Elegance quite a lot, but I do feel like being a tag team does hamstring them quite a bit in many ways from being single stars. Not to say that they can't be single stars, but when you're a tag team, it does hamper being a single star quite often because, when you're a single star, the tag team stuff has got to come secondary, or the single stuff has got to come secondary, if you follow what I mean. So one way or the other, you're not getting success, the way in which you're kind of built for success. Because if you're a tag team star, again, you're doing tag team stuff. Yes, you have singles matches and whatnot, but you're not a singles star. Obviously, you can be a single star, but then you're not a tag team wrestler. You know what I mean? You can be a faction, or you can have a faction, but that has got to come, like, with you being the focal point, with you being the superstar, and the other person or the other persons being the entourage and being the background characters for the most part in that regard. So if you're going to push somebody who is a tag team, or mostly a tag team performer, into a singles role, then it's like, well, now how is that person gonna, like, again, you've already got very limited female tag teams, so saying, hey, we're gonna take away another one of the female tag teams, or whatever, from our female tag team division, which is 2 tag teams strong, basically, for the most part, is like, well, I don't know. That's really weird and really awkward and doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. You know what I mean? It's just one of those things of saying, again, we don't really care about this division, and it's really just, there, and we really don't care about it because we haven't really, again, put any time and any effort and any care and any whatever into it. We don't really want to do anything with it. We can't really be bothered funding it. We really can't be bothered writing anything for it. And we really cannot be bothered with it. So saying, hey, well, let's just forget about it. That's fine if that's what you're going to do. But again, just do it. Like at the end of the day, so, but yeah, don't gaslight people into being like, oh, you'll be a single star and this and that and whatever else. But then you'll just be like, oh, no, you won't. You'll just be like here and like, we don't have much for you. But yeah, sure. But we love you. We love your work. You're awesome. La di da di da. And trying to, buff people up and all this sort of stuff with like compliments and with like, or trying to give some of the other talent like to tell them, hey, try to calm them down. Obviously, try to calm people down and try to lower expectations sometimes. But that's where you shouldn't be trying to elevate their expectations. Just realize, hey, it is what it is. This is, it is how it is. But again, like at a certain point, we need to realize, oh yeah, it is how it is because we keep going, it is how it is. Instead of going, okay, well, let's try to push somebody and see what happens. If it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out, but at least we've tried and we've actually done something rather than just going, well, it is what it is, and we're not going to try to do anything different. That's where you always have problems when it's like people start losing interest because, again, you're not even trying to, cover the fact that you don't even care about like the talent that you've got, and that's when people are like, well, why the fuck am I even here? And why am I doing this? Like here, I could be anywhere in the world doing this and getting paid, if not better than here, then basically about the same as being here if I count up all my indies and whatnot, and I'll be able to do what I want to do and not be hampered by this straight up bullshit creative that does not want to do sweet fuck all with anyone except for the guys that are already basically main event made men or whatever. Same thing in WWE. Again, I'm not just criticizing TNA or whatever. I'm not going to just criticize AEW or whatever or anything else. I'm just trying to say you cannot leave your talent, especially new and younger talent, by the wayside and just gaslight them into saying, oh no, but we think you're great and da 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 da. Stay with us, it'll be fine, you'll be champion in 2 years or something or whatever else it is. That's future promises and you don't know what's going to happen in a year or in 2 years or whatever else it's going to be. And if you haven't pulled the trigger by now, well, it starts to feel like, well, you're just never going to pull that trigger because again, yeah, you haven't done it, and basically, again, future behavior is very predictable by past behavior. So again, if somebody does something or doesn't do something, pretty much well when they say, hey, we promise we're going to do this in a year, and then you wait for a year and then they don't do it. It's like, oh, okay, cool, great. Well, you promised me a year ago or 2 years ago, and then you promised me 2 years before that, and then you promised me 2 years before that. At a certain point, bro, again, strike it out on your own. Like, I'm glad that Hotch is still around and still doing stuff in TNA, and he didn't leave. But again, like, there's been so many, and again, like, I can understand some people are saying, well, they were too impatient or whatever else it was. But perhaps they also saw the writing on the wall from other people who were there, who were like, hey, I've been here for 4 or 5 years or whatever it's been. And every year that I've been here, you've been promising me this and promising me that and promising me this and that and the other thing. But you haven't pulled the trigger with me yet. So at this point, I'm done. I'm no longer... And again, this is not just TNA or WWE or AEW or whatever. But again... we can't have that where, not just promises, but like, again, where it's just like, oh man, we don't know what we're doing with you. And again, it's the same thing with Ash by Elegance. It's like, well, is she still wrestling, or what's going on? Is she, like, seriously, she must be seriously injured in some ways, because again, like, it seemed like her career was over Red Rover, and then it was like, oh well, we don't know, and now she's gone away again. It's like, okay. So again, she's probably got to go and have some, I don't know what's happening again, some surgery or something. Same with Laying Lee. It's like, now we no longer have Laying Lee. Now it's like, oh, okay, or we don't know really what's happening there, but, you know, again, that even though I wasn't the biggest fan or whatever, I knew that a lot of people knew who she was from WWE and had that, like, oh man, she's like a somewhat major superstar in TNA, at least to some extent, and it helped Saya Brookside kind of get over and get into that next level, into that position finally, and she'd been there for like 5 years or whatever it's been, grinding away and doing stuff and whatnot, and she finally got, into that position. Yeah, even some people, I do think that, they actually put the first time when Jordan Grace won it, she wasn't ready for that position, but I think when she got it, when she got the tag titles with Rachel Ellering, that was when she started to be like, oh, no, this girl's ready for the main event, basically. This girl's ready to be world champion, or even at least in that, in that picture, in that conversation of being world champ. So, I think that was a cool thing to kind of do, to actually, I think she shouldn't really have been a tag team person at that point. She should have just been, let's push this person to the world title. Let's push her into the main or semi-main event or the main event, and just start, or at least start doing something with her, or at least start working with her to get her to that next level. But like, would I take her first title reign away? I don't know, because again, like, maybe that was part of her self to be like, oh man, geez, like, I've actually got to put this thing together, because otherwise I won't be in that position again. Like, that's just more motivational or whatever. I don't know. But they do trust me, and they do have something where they're like, oh yeah, let's work with you to get you to the next level, But then again, I don't know. But still, like, I do think that there are people and times and places that it's like, this person has come along at the right time and then in the right place. And like the main event scene, unfortunately, right now is pretty lacking, like I said. But you've got that opportunity with a lot of young talent to build them up into that position. And it's great to see some people, even though some of these stories are kind of like on hold to an extent, is like, okay, well, there's something there. We can go back to that in 6 months, in 8 months, in whatever time, to actually make this happen and make this work, and to get to that point where, people feel like, oh, it's this person's time, or it's that person's time to be the guy, or to be the gal, or whatever, So yeah, like, that's where we want to be. I think one of the best, like, in one way, creative time periods of TNA was like the Josh Alexander, sort of period, of TNA. Like, you had a few good periods here and there, but like, again, that period was pretty decently good, honestly. There was some bad things, obviously, but still. I do think there was more good than bad. I think a lot of people had different creative aspects, and I felt like, like even the Brian Cage and Sami Callihan, like, period, like, was like pretty good as well. You had so many different things going on with, like, a lot of newer guys, and a lot of, like, making like the young guys of TNA that you were kind of making your new identity with, the guys, rather than just like, yeah, we're just going to rely on, some various ex-WWE talent. Like, you obviously had your times when you had your Christian Cages or whatever else it was, and things like that, and Johnny Impacts and different things like that, or whatever, or even AEW or whatever. Even like last year or whatever it was, when we had like Trick Williams. Like, I actually think like in some ways, like, it was actually kind of pretty good time period in some ways, because like there was a lot of like, I don't want to say resentment, but there was a lot of like fans don't want to really see this, but they want to see it because it's like, well, we want to see it out. We want to see like how somebody from our side is going to finally, pull it off and get that belt back and all of that sort of stuff. And be the man, here in TNA for after that, like, so, and again, that was like, even though like perhaps again, like some of it I don't 100% agree with and whatnot, like I still think like, yeah, this like creatively there is a lot of good things to like, where, or at least somebody where the fans are so hot behind somebody, and such a, even though it was like a people got sick of it, it was like a story that everyone was invested in, even though people were like, oh man, we don't really want to see this Trick Williams guy or whatever that much. Well, it is what it is. That, we really want to see Santana with the belt or whatever. But at least it was something. At least it got people invested. And that's the thing. Like, it's like, even though it's like, again, people complain about the Jeff Jarrett's and things like that of TNA, and certainly like there are some legit complaints to be had there in some regards, but it's like, well, did it do its job in a way? Did people keep coming? Yes, they kept buying those tickets for one reason or another, to come and see Jeff Jarrett or whoever it was get their ass handed to them, so that, AJ Styles or Samoa Joe or whoever else it was could be the hero and could be the one holding the fort down for a little while before somebody else came along that was just a piece of shit that everyone wanted to see get beat for 6 months, a year, or whatever else it is. And Nick Nemeth's doing the same thing now. It's like, he is that, again, in some ways unfortunate, relying on that ex-WWE talent pool sort of thing. But again, he's a son of a bitch that everybody wants to see him get his comeuppance, basically, and get beat. So when it happens, which probably won't be for a while, everyone will be like happy, and everyone can't wait to see kind of who it's going to be and when it's going to be and all that sort of stuff. So yeah, but we'll have to wait and see that. But again, like, that's where you do need writers, creators, bookers, and leadership who is not afraid and really realizes, hey, what we really need is that investment in the young, up-and-coming talent. We've got to see it through, because again, the more we don't invest in these younger guys and whatnot, the more we're going to be sitting back and being like, well, shit, we've got to do the same thing. We've got to take this hit. We've got to take that dip. We've got to take that, so that, when these young guys or whatever are ready, that, and are bringing in the money, that it's like been worth it. Again, I think Bear Bronson and some of those other guys can be a solid part of that future for the company as well. Because again, like, we know, and this comes like a lot from Jim Ross, from his podcasts and whatnot, and even a lot of interviews and books and whatever that he's wrote and whatnot and discussed and whatnot, that the ultimate reason a lot of talent leave promotions and whatnot is either cash or creative. You know, maybe TNA can't offer the cash that WWE can or that AEW can. And I know a lot of people meme on TNA for basically giving whoever comes in the world title or whatever else and that sort of thing really quickly, or even just opportunities at the world title really quickly. But the thing about it is, that's a lot of what they've got to offer, because again, they can't offer the same cash, so they've got to at least offer better creative. And that can't just work for, you know, ex-WWE or AEW guys or whatever else it is. It's got to work for the young, up-and-coming talent. And even our current talent, you know. So, yeah, that's where we want to be. We cannot be gaslighting these people into believing one thing or another, and I don't want to say promising again, but again, that sort of like inherent like thought of, if I come into TNA, you know, at least, even if I'm not going to be champion right away, at least I'm going to have something to work with, and then maybe in a few months or whatever else it is, we'll see where we're at, and hopefully it'll turn out well, and hopefully, like, you know, not just for me, but for the company and for everything going on as well. And then even then, once I've had my turn at the top or done whatever I'm going to do, it's like, well, you know, I've had a good run at the top, and, or, you know, I've been in programs and we continue to be in programs and stuff like that, and I'll still be figured in for a little while because I have been the champion or whatever. So hey, I'll be around for a little while, unless like I really get a good offer from WWE and whatnot, or AEW or whatever, and then we'll see how that goes. But like, if I'm here, and I'm going to be working at this, and I'm going to make sure when I do leave that I'm trying to put out, or at least a lot while I'm here as well. Even if I'm not going to leave, I'm still going to try to put over the other people that need that boost or whatever else it is, or when it's necessary, and then hopefully when it's my turn again or whatever else it is, that I can be put in those positions and people can trust me. And then again, same thing when I'm leaving, right? Well, I'm going to try to put over as many people as what I can on the way out, so that again, you know, it helps the company and it helps me. It just like looks good for me to be like doing the professional thing and not being like a selfish bitch and just, or whatever, a selfish asshole, and just be like, nah, fuck you, I'm gone, bye. That's it, I'm done. And sometimes that does come down to booking as well. But again, that's where you should be saying, well, can we hold you for another few months or whatever, and that sort of thing, just so that we can help build up our roster or whatever else it is of guys, so that, you know, more of the guys are ready to go and more legitimized than what they are right now. So, but yeah. Anyway, guys, that is pretty much it for this one. I hope you've enjoyed it, and I hope you join me again in another one.